Hello. Okay, let's talk about the power of no, the word no. So I just invite you right now to consider, okay, what's your relationship with the word no? What happens for you in your body when you think of saying no? What is your past experience with that word when you were a child growing up? So in our culture, there's this idea that no can be viewed as defiant, or there's this don't say no, that's not nice. It can also be seen as being contrarian or disagreeable. And a lot of people struggle to say no. And a lot of people say no very easily. So right now, I just invite you to consider, do you say no easily? Or is it difficult for you to say no? So, no is a very powerful word. And no supports us to create the space in us to determine what our intuitive self, so the inside, the smaller voice, is communicating to us. It also creates space in our body and can allow our nervous system to relax. It also gives us the opportunity to tune into ourselves and can create an energetic boundary around us to kind of just pause and be like, okay, what do I need here? I used to be a yes person. I considered myself easygoing, go with the flow. I just go with what other people want. And I learned this from, like everyone, we learn our ways of being from the family I grew up in, my teachers, my experiences in school with friends, and then the media that I consumed. So what I watched on TV or in movies. And about, I would say 8 years ago, I found myself kind of realizing that I had spent a lot of my life saying yes. And yes was like a compulsion. I would just speak it. I would just say, anybody asked me a question, it would be yes. I remember one of my first job out of forestry school was with this amazing health forester, and her and I would be hiking through the bush together, and she would ask me questions like, do you know what this tree is? Or do you know what this insect is? Or do you know where we are on the map? And I would just say yes. I have found myself in my life starting businesses with people that I wasn't interested in just because I had this compulsion to say yes. I found myself in relationships I didn't want to be in for longer than I was in them, just because I would say yes. I found myself in jobs that I didn't like, or doing things in jobs that I didn't like because of this compulsion to say yes. And about 8 years ago, when this became really, really clear to me, I started tracking it. So I started tracking like when I would say yes and what would happen. And I set this intention. Okay, I'm going to notice how often I say yes. And sometimes at the beginning, it took me quite a while to notice this, right? So at the beginning, it was like I would say yes to something. And then 3 months later, I'd be like, whoa, why did I say yes to that? I don't actually want to be doing this. And then it began being like a month later, and then it began being a week later, and then a day later, and then an hour later, and then like a second later. And then I was able to actually pause and be like, wait, what do I want here? Because this yes was just so in me. I was just this yes person. Yes, 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 all the time, right? And so one of the things that I found to be really supportive for me is understanding that I needed space to actually consider what was going on inside me to determine what was right for me. But I had all of this fear inside of me, all of these stories I was making up that what if I say no, that was quite unconscious to begin with. So we all create stories in our minds all the time. Our mind is always making meaning of what's coming in. And what can be a very big story that our mind creates if we say no is FOMO, fear of missing out. Because if we say no, what's going to happen? Right? We're like, I say yes. I used to say yes to everything because what if? For example, if I don't go to that party, I may not meet the person of my dreams. If I say no to dinner with friends, they may not like me anymore. If I say no to a request from my boss, I might get fired. All of these crazy making stories that go in our mind. If I don't say yes, this is going to happen. If I say no, this is going to happen. Right? If I say no to posture in a yoga class or a workout class, I may be seen as lazy. And so I'm going to offer you a different way of looking at this. What if saying no to your boss's request, for example, means that you'll have more space in your day to focus on what you're really good at in your job, what matters to you in your job? Or what if saying no to a request in an exercise class means that you're respecting your body and your own unique energy levels? What if saying no to going to a party means that you're opening to the possibility of something else that you may want to do that hasn't presented itself yet? Or what if saying no to dinner with friends means that you'll be able to care for yourself because your body is giving you these subtle cues that it's getting worn out and it needs some rest? So, right now, I invite you, as you're watching this, to say the word no out loud, right where you are. No. What's it like? What's it like to say that? No. What do you notice in your body when you say no? Notice sensations. Notice anything, any clenching or opening or tingling, anything. My guess is that it might be a little bit uncomfortable. And the reason is because you may not be used to saying no. But what no does is that it creates space. It creates room, boundary around you. It gives you space to consider you. When you say no, you allow yourself to find that space in you to feel out what's right for you. Especially if the yes isn't this instinctual, in the moment knowing, right? Sometimes we just get yeses and we know this is what I'm doing. We honor those. And we also got to learn to honor those no's. So I invite you to practice this through considering where in your life you could say no. What could you say no to in the next couple of days? I just said no, it's been a couple of weeks now, to social media by deleting the apps off of my phone. They were becoming incredibly distracting, and I felt myself like being really addicted to that incessant need to pick up my phone, and also like this bombardment of constant information. And it was creating like all of this stress and anxiety in my body. When I first deleted them, when I was like, okay, I'm going to delete these apps off of my phone, I noticed my mind was terrified of what if I miss out on something? How could I not use social media? Like, what's going to happen? How will I keep up with all of my friends? All of this stuff. But what happened really quickly was that I have so much more space in my day, and there's a new calmness in my body. And I can go on and check my socials, on my laptop when I want to. And I find that the compulsion is gone. So consider what you would like to practice saying no to. It can be a person, it can be something like social media, it can be saying no to chocolate, although I don't know why you'd want to say no to chocolate. But something little, like just start practicing. And notice that your mind's going to want to create reasons to convince you of all the reasons you need to say yes. All the people you may disappoint, the ripples you might create in your family, what you might miss out on, the difficulty it may create in your relationship. It's going to create stories. That's what the mind does. And the saying no may initially not feel great to you. It may feel very uncomfortable because of the mind telling you stories about what it fears is going to happen, and then your body is going to react to those fears that the mind is telling it. So just letting you know that this is par for the course, right? We're doing something new and it may feel uncomfortable. So I invite you to also create or come up with creative ways to say no. Because if we think back about what the purpose of no is, it's to create space for yourself in order for you to choose what's right for you. And if you don't get an immediate no, it's totally okay for you to say, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I just need to think about this. Or I just need some space, some time to consider your question or your request. Or I've got to feel this out for myself and I'll let you know really soon, as soon as I do. At this moment, I'm not sure, but I'll let you know as soon as I am. And from my own experience of saying no or saying, I'll get back to you tomorrow, I'm not sure right now, is that I was actually able to get clear on what I really wanted, what I really needed. And often what would happen is that these ideas or these alternative ways of doing something would come, like, oh, I'll just pop into the party for an hour. That feels good. But committing to stay for like hours, I'm not up for that, right? It's like I pop in and see my friends. Or this has happened with bosses. They ask me something and then I'm like, I'll just get back to you. And then a different alternative idea comes in that I can then go, hey, well, what about this instead? Like, I hear what you need from me here and I'd like to offer you this instead. Would that work? Right? So we create more space in us for so many different alternative ways of being. So I have some practices for you that you can try. Practice saying no out loud to yourself during your day, and practice saying no in the mirror. And then notice how no feels in your body. What does it feel like? Notice the sensations. Write down all the fears in your mind that come up when you say no, what the mind is creating about what will happen if you say no. And we want to get clear on these because those are really unconscious thought patterns that move through you. And the more we can bring consciousness to them, the more we can change them. And then consider the places in your life where you can put up a no boundary. You know, where could it be? Just like I did with social media, something like that. And come up with a list of other ways to say no. So if you're, if no feels too uncomfortable or you don't get that immediate no and you're unsure and your tendency is just to say yes, come up with different ways. Write them out so that they're not just in your head, but so that you've had the physical experience of what's also in your mind, so that it feels a little bit more solidified. Maybe write them in your journal or put them in your phone so you can have them handy. So when we say no, no provides your body and your nervous system the chance to tune in on itself. It gives us room. It allows you to connect to your intuition. It allows you to connect to your yeses. and it allows you to connect to your boundaries. And no also allows other opportunities to come your way that you may have never considered. So I invite you to think about this. What's your no like? What's it like to say no? How often do you say no? How often would you like to start saying no? Good luck, and let me know how it goes.